Hello everybody, Michi here, and today I'm going to give you my honest review, my honest thoughts on the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. Now, yes, I know that I look so mature, I look like I have 100 years just because of how wise I look, but I'm actually pretty young, and I did grow up with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, so the movie based on Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is arguably the best game, at least is my favorite game of the whole franchise, it's a huge deal for me. I guess it's kind of weird because I would say there's two types of Five Nights at Freddy's fans. Ones that were still children when Security Breach came out in 2021, 2022, and me, which is the other side. I was already a grown up when Security Breach came out. So I am in like a weird limbo where people are like, well, aren't you too old to like Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, I'm sorry, I grew up watching Markiplier videos on Five Nights at Freddy's. But anyway, to be concise about my thoughts on the movie, it is a fun movie. I liked it, but it's not good at all. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I'm gonna do my best to try and explain whatever weird thought is in my mind. First of all, I just wanna say that in a meta sense, it was so fun to watch because it differs so much from the games of Five Nights at Freddy's and the whole lore, let's say. And so I was watching this with my girlfriend, right? And it was so fun to be comparing the lore of the movie with the lore of the games and being like, well, this doesn't actually make sense for the games. Like, they just straight up changed everything and just making all these connections. I honestly don't know if this was intended. I guess the main criticism of a lot of people that I've seen online is that, well, it's not 100% loyal to the source material, which is the games. So in the games, Michael Afton is actually good. He wants to destroy whatever his father did and all the damage he did. But in the movie, he really is like a bad guy. This happens in the beginning of the movie, so it's not a spoiler really. And yes, it is correct. It is not loyal to the source material, but I don't see this as a bad thing because of what I mentioned. I think it's very cool to be comparing these two lores and be like, oh, but I remember this from the games, so it is not like that in the movie. And that whole process of exchanging words with my girlfriend, or it can be your friend, it can be your dad, whoever, that part is pretty fun, and it makes you theorize, like when we were children and theorized about Five Nights at Freddy's. Who knows if it was on purpose, honestly. At the beginning of the movie, I was very confused because, yes, I did saw Five Nights at Freddy's, the first movie, but I couldn't remember many of the characters. I was like, who is this girl? And then, okay, it's Vanessa. And I don't know if I am just a little bit dummy or the characters were, in fact, forgettable. Of course, I did remember Josh Hutcherson and Abby, which were the main protagonists. The movie kind of starts with Josh Hutcherson asking Vanessa to go on a date, and they actually do go to a date. I know it sounds and it's irrelevant, but I remember when Josh Hutcherson is sitting on the table, Vanessa arrives and all of that, that shot was absolutely beautiful. I don't know why it was a highlight in my mind, but I was like, you know, this seems very warm. It is very well crafted, the scene. And if we remember in the first movie, the animatronics, Freddy and company just kind of stopped working. But in this movie, we see that Mike, which is Josh Hutcherson, is promising Abby that they're going to repair them at some point. So Vanessa and Mike are speaking about it on the date, and Vanessa is like, well, you gotta tell your sister the truth. Then at night, Abby, the little sister, goes on an adventure to Freddy's pizzeria. Mike goes to the pizzeria too to go for her. But while at the pizzeria, both Mike and Abby start speaking and just playing around, and there is still a place in the pizzeria where there are candies, toys, things like that. Now here they did something that I didn't appreciate that much, which is that Mike told his sister, okay, let's go, grab something and let's go. You want the little gummies or something? And then she goes, no, I already ate these gummies on December, don't you remember? And I ended up very sick. Do you remember that time? Do you know what I'm speaking about, Mike? I guess there's nothing particularly wrong about it, but it just feels kind of inorganic the way she tells Mike about that. It seems more like they're trying to communicate something to the viewer rather than a brotherly conversation. But I mean, it's not terrible at all. It's fine. It's just the way it came across to me, and just a little bit, not too much. But Abby, the sister, doesn't take the gummies, and rather she takes a little bit of a toy that says, speak to us whenever you want. And supposedly she can speak to Chica, Freddy, and friends. So they go home and everything is okay. Sorry, I just went for a little bit of Diet Coke, and then I realized, watching at the camera, that I just I don't know, I just look kind of a little bit pretty, you know? Don't you guys see a little bit of red here? As if I had some makeup on or something? Maybe it was an illusion, I'm not entirely sure, but I think I looked pretty cool for a moment there. After that, there is a scene where we get to know 4 new characters. 3 of them are part of a group of reporters that go in the middle of the night to an old fast food pizzeria of the year 1982, and that is where Five Nights at Freddy's 2 takes place. We got the toy animatronics, we got Puppet. I forgot to mention this, but at the beginning of the movie there is a very important, very significant throwback into the year 1982, where this girl named Charlotte is trying to save a child from a Springtrap. Basically, there is a big party, there are adults, kids, there is people of all ages. But then Springtrap sees a child that is just alone there, and he takes it into a weird place, like a little cave. Well, it's not a cave, it's more like a restricted zone in the pizzeria. The only person that sees this is Charlotte, so she goes to save him. She takes him into her arms, and then starts running for her life because Springtrap is following her very rapidly. So eventually she runs and she arrives to where everybody sees her. She screams, she's in the middle of the stage of the animatronics. Everybody turns around to see what's going on, and then they see how the girl falls and she has some blood in her back. Then a little compartment in the floor opens and Puppet comes up and takes her into her arms. And I found this honestly fascinating because it is a throwback to this incredible audio of FNAF 2.
My daughter, if you could hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours.
Or at least that's what I think. I think it's an official audio. It might not be. I think it is. And so we go into the future where we were in the movie, and the 3 reporters met with this super weird guy, which, by the way, is Michael Afton, the son of William Afton. Yes, Springtrap. But he's such a weird looking guy, and I don't know how they agreed to meet him in the night. Now, this is where things start getting a little bit odd, because I think in the games, Michael Afton is actually good, right? Sometimes he is the security or the character that we are playing as, because he wants to overthrow all the legacy of his father and all the damage he has done. But in here, he wants to continue his legacy, which is a little bit weird. And then you see him and he looks literally like the Bolivian president, and it's so funny because he doesn't know how to read a room, you know? He's just throwing comments that are so weird and make the whole crew of reporters uncomfortable. Yet, they agreed to go into this haunted place. So I don't know what is all that about. I know they won the article, but to risk their lives like that, it's a little bit silly. But okay, it's a movie, just enjoy it. I gotta learn to enjoy movies. And these 3 reporters get brutally murdered by the animatronics, and I think by some really strange characters that are like Puppet, but mini puppets, which I don't think they were in the game. And also another weird and horrible thing that happens in this scene is that Puppet, for some reason, possesses the body of the female reporter, which is like, we do see Puppet moving a little bit, and that is super epic, but we also see most of the time Puppet from now on as literally a person cosplayed as Puppet, which is so weird. I don't like that. Puppet should be the literal Puppet, not a person that just suddenly has makeup of Puppet. That seems so fake. That seems like, yes, Goku Super Saiyan 10, you know, like just some fan-made design, you know? Some strange transformation that doesn't even make sense. We are here for the animatronics and the puppets, not for a person cosplayed as the characters. But again, it's a movie for kids, I guess. It did probably cut some costs into the movie, because having Puppet move all the time might have been expensive. I don't know. And I will be fair, the little moment that we actually see Puppet coming out of his gift box, it was incredible. It was amazing. That's the only part that I wanted to see of the whole movie. Like, that just made me happy. It was honestly so epic. Like, starting to listen the music of that was just on a whole new level. Now, these are just like the beginning parts of the movie. I don't plan on explaining the whole movie, of course. But there is at least other 2 things that I didn't like of the movie that I'm gonna tell you. Actually 1, because the second one is a spoiler, so I would rather not say the spoiler. Don't worry, there will be no spoilers of the second half of the movie, but I will tell you this, that is not a spoiler. There is like a secondary storyline where Abby, the little sister, has to do a science project, she does a little animatronic, right? His teacher is an absolute jerk. He's so mean with her. He sees all the other projects of the school and he's like, oh, that's incredible, you know? He says one of those typical volcanoes of with baking soda and vinegar, and he's like, that's the most impressive thing I've seen in my entire life. But she sees that this girl is making like an incredible robot that functions and everything. It literally does work. It's small, but it does work perfectly. And he's like, yeah, we're going to lose because of you. So, I mean, if you want to help us, just don't participate, you little child. You help us more just giving up. Please give up. We don't want your silly little project. And it's so horrible. The teacher is really an unlikable character. And they're building this for a science fair. So the day of the science fair arrives and she already has her robot completely functional, which is incredible. Mike takes his sister into the science fair. Well, wait for me a little bit. I will be there for your presentation. But let me go and do something real quick. And you can see that it is still day, you know? You can see the sun, you can see everything. It is bright as day. And she tells him, okay, but don't be late to my presentation, okay? Whatever you're gonna do it quick. So he goes back to his house and has a conversation with Charlotte. Yes, the girl that was murdered in 82. And they start exchanging information. Then we see Abby in the school. The professor grabs her project and he just acts like, oops, ooh, it fell off. And so the little animatronic just breaks into pieces. And he's like, oopsie doopsie, it was not my intention, you know? I'm gonna give you a good note, how about that? So Abby gets really sad and goes on her bicycle to the pizzeria of 82. So the old pizzeria, not the new one. Then Mike calls into the school of Abby. Hey, can you guys get Abby on the phone? And they're like, oh, she went to some place because her project broke, so she just went to some random place. And he immediately knew that she was on the old pizzeria. And so he goes to the pizzeria, but here's the part that I didn't like, where I liked it because it made me laugh a lot. It was so funny to watch. But he gets into the car, he's arriving to the old pizzeria, and it is already night. And it's so insane because the timeline doesn't add up. Why is it night? It is such a weird continuity mistake that it's so obvious, and it's honestly baffling that it got into the movie. It is supposed to be in the day because he didn't take that long, because he was going to be there for the science fair and see the presentation of Abby. And you cannot even say that it took that long because, yeah, when he takes her sister into the school, it is so bright, it's day. Then immediately he goes back to the house. The teacher destroys the science project of Abby. Abby goes to the pizzeria in bicycle, so it cannot be that far. And Mike gets to the pizzeria on the car. So how is it night? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I guess I kind of knew that the movie wasn't going to be an incredible movie. But I did have a lot of fun just because of the characters. I think watching the toy animatronics was a huge thing for me. Like, I almost want to even have like a toy chica and a toy bunny here in my house. They looked so incredible, so impeccable. Amazing design. I mean, whoever did those animatronics did an incredible job. And again, like I already said, I think the puppet scenes were the best. Not when Puppet is a human. No. When we actually see Puppet, whether it's in the throwback of 82 or whether it's in the present when it gets out of the box. It's just so incredible to see Puppet. It has so much aura. So what rating would I give to the movie? Well, I'm not gonna be too mean. I'm gonna give it something like a 6. Like, it's not bad. Well, maybe it is a little bit bad, but it is very enjoyable. Maybe because I grew up with Five Nights at Freddy's. But with this movie, I would actually like to know what you guys thought of it. Like, what rating do you give it? I actually want to read your comments about if you enjoyed it more than the first one. I think I enjoyed it more than the first one. Just because of the variety of characters that we get in animatronic form, you know? We get the toy animatronics, we get Balloon Boy, that was also very epic. Mangle was an absolute monster. I think Mangle is definitely, out of all those animatronics and Puppet, I think Mangle is definitely the most ferocious. It's the most dangerous. All the other ones you can kind of outrun, you know? You see Toy Chica, it starts going for you, but it goes very slowly. Like, you can definitely, if you walk mildly fast, you will outrun her. they don't present a huge threat to any human being, honestly. But Mangle on the other hand, it's pretty dangerous. It's very fast. It is very erratic, you know, it just starts moving crazy. And again, I don't want to spoil, that's why I don't speak more in detail. But they did leave a few cliffhangers for the next movie, which at this point is almost guaranteed is going to happen. It will be based, of course, on Five Nights at Freddy's 3, which I mean, it can be interesting, but also, I guess in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, you only get one real character, which is Springtrap. The other ones are kind of like phantoms. So we're just going to have to wait and see how they manage it. But anyway, that's about it. See ya.